dance. Let me see you move.
Love never felt so good. Can't I die if it ever could? Not like you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome aboard to Local Matters, where living local, well, it never felt so good. You know, drug use knows no boundaries. It can affect people from various demographics and socioeconomic levels. Just a couple of weeks ago, former NBA player Lamar Odom came very close to death. Drugs played a huge part to his downward spiral. Although Lamar's case was a national focal point, according to various studies, all regions and all types of communities show high levels of drug use. And according to local police, Calhoun and Etowah counties are no exception. City Councilman and Executive Director of the Agency for Substance Abuse Prevention, Saram Selassie, joins me on Local Matters to talk about the high-level usage of drug abuse in Calhoun County and measures that are in place to help people with substance abuse problems. It's a conversation that you don't want to miss, so we'll join you right back here on Local Matters. Hello, everyone, and welcome aboard to Local Matters, where living local never felt so good. Today's program addresses the topic of drug abuse. According to local law enforcement, drug abuse was on the rise about a year ago in Calhoun and Etowah counties. And so I've asked Anniston City Councilman Saram Selassie to join me to address that particular issue. And so City Councilman Saram Selassie, welcome aboard and welcome back to Local Matters, where living local never felt so good.
All right.
So Saram, about a year ago, heroin was on the rise here in Calhoun County and Etowah counties. And so I wanted to bring you aboard to really address this issue, because I wanted to try to see where are we today? Have you seen lots of referrals in your program there?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you again, like I always do, for having a television show like this to really get to some of the pertinent issues that are going on and relevant issues that are going on in our community. So thank you for this opportunity. Second, to answer your question, we saw the rise of heroin, and it still is somewhat rising because of the national push against prescription drugs. And it's kind of ironic. It's like when one thing is attacked, another thing may go on the rise. Okay. So as people and law enforcement agencies and prevention agencies really started to crack down on heroin, on prescription drugs, it made it harder for people to get. So they needed something more easily accessible and something cheaper. And heroin became that type of pain-killing opiate that people were really getting easy access to and then starting to become addicted.
I mean, I can't imagine that heroin would be easier for a person to get than it would be, because I remember when they started this pushback and sending drugs like Sudafed, even that's behind counters and locked under key. So you're telling me that it would be easier for a person to get a hold of heroin than it would be for them to get prescription drugs?
Yes, definitely.
And you think that's one of the reasons why it was on the rise, and still I've not seen any recent numbers, but you're saying it could possibly still be on the rise.
Right, and don't get me wrong, prescription drug abuse is still a problem in our communities. My agency, the Agency for Substance Abuse Prevention, we recently did a National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day where we were able to collect 70.5 pounds of unused and expired prescription drugs through our partnership with the Anniston Police Department.
Wait, before you go there, because you know what, I'm sitting here thinking, I did not know that something like that was happening. I really want you to talk about that date, because I looked in my medicine cabinet the other day, Councilman Selassie, and when I looked inside, I went, wow, if somebody were to come in my house and use my bathroom and go and just casually open my medicine cabinet, they would probably think I was a drug addict, because I've got all these drugs in there, but they're old and expired, and you and I don't know why we feel the need to keep them. Instead of just throwing them in a garbage can, but then you don't really want to do that either.
No, actually what people oftentimes do is flush them, and that is very harmful to the water system.
Our water.
So agencies like ours partner with the police department and the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, and we do these National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day events where people can come. We've been hosting the past two at the Walgreens on 800 and Quintard and drop those drugs off, and then they're safely dispose. They actually incinerate those drugs. Either the police department does it or the DEA does it. So
wow.
yeah, that's the best way, the most safe way to get rid of those drugs. And like you said, many people have those drugs inside of their medicine cabinets, and oftentimes children are getting access to those drugs. Statistics have shown that the #1 place where young people are really getting these drugs are from right in their own homes. So
and I do want to clear it up. Thank goodness that I don't have small kids in the home with me, because we're not talking 2 and 3. We're talking about middle-aged kids. We're talking about maybe kids in the 4th, 5th grade, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. You're right. And if they see it there, and they become curious, because and that's another topic we can discuss too. We have had problems in our schools with middle-aged school kids bringing parents drugs to school and dispersing those out among friends. But see, again, if they weren't there in the medicine cabinet, because sometimes they're just right there.
Yeah,
they're so easily accessible for kids.
A parent or grandparent could be a drug dealer and not even know it. And one of the most common terms that is being used these days are farm parties. Not the hee-ha-hee-ha-ho or yee-ha-ho. We're not talking about that. Farm parties stands for PHARM, where actually young people come together and they'll have just a little bowl, and a lot of pills are in that bowl, and you just come by and take whatever, or you take a collection of that, and they call them farm parties. And I really, really want to recommend to all young people out there and parents out there, young people, do not participate in those parties. Parents, be aware that your children may be getting access to those unused and expired prescription drugs.
When was the last date of the last drug take-back day that you guys sponsored?
The last one was September 26th. It was right there at Walgreens. But again, we'll be doing another one early spring. We want to get past this cold spell.
For that.
We'll definitely come back, and hopefully you guys can help advertise that event for us as well.
I definitely will, because I didn't even realize that there I was, could have been a drug dealer, and especially if I had small children in the home, and not realize, because I have all of these things in my medicine cabinet just sitting there. I don't know if I'm waiting for somebody to come by and say, hey, get rid of those. And I have been leery about this, throwing them in the garbage, throwing them down the toilet, because you have to be careful. Right. You really do.
And some other things that we're seeing become an issue, and do I have time to?
Yes, you still have time, sure.
One of the major things, these new e-cigarettes, Dottie, they are so dangerous right now, because first, they're not FDA approved, and you see these young people. E-cigarette could be this pen right here. That's so very important for parents to know, because they're sneaking them in schools, going into the bathroom, and having something that looks like a little pen and smoking it. Yes. Oftentimes, it can have nicotine in it. Marijuana, they have the liquid marijuana that can go in it. Yes. All these different products, and these young people do not know anything that they may be putting in their bodies.
If it's not been FDA approved, you don't know what's in it. You don't know how it's going to affect you.
You don't. Okay. So that's another thing that we're seeing on the rise. Okay. Also, marijuana.
We're going to hold it right there at marijuana, because that is huge, in our community. So when we come back, we're going to address marijuana. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Local Matters. We're living local. Well, it never felt so good. It's not a topic that really feels good to talk about right now, but it's a topic that we have to talk about, because it's been a problem in our community, and it still remains a problem in our community. And we're talking about substance abuse, particularly drugs. Young people are being able to obtain drugs, and sometimes we're not even aware that we're helping them. Before we went to break, we were talking City Councilman Saram Selassie, even though he's here today, not so much as city councilman, but I wanted to have him come aboard because he is the executive director there at the Substance Prevention Abuse Substance. Help me to, because I've got it, just say ASAP, because I've got the name wrong. And so we were talking about easy assets, the things that we want to keep to be mindful of. Do not have things in your medicine cabinet just lying around and just sitting there well beyond expiration date. I am guilty of it. I do it all the time. So we were talking about things like that. But when we came back, we determined that we wanted to talk about marijuana, because that is another one that most kids feel like that's a safe drug. People are using that now to, if they have cancer or cataracts, and it's a medicinal. So it's not going to hurt me. But yeah, you don't know what could be in that marijuana.
And that's a perfect segue, because today, and I want to really hit this home, the marijuana of today is not the same marijuana
No, it's
20, 30 years ago. Not at all. Two completely different things. You know, I think back in our parents' days, they would have reefer. Well, now that is not what we see out here today. Marijuana today is known in some cases to be 10 to 15 times more potent than the marijuana of before. And also the problem is now it's being laced with all kind of you name it, from crack cocaine to synthetic marijuana can be in those joints sometimes. Even some people have been known to lace it with embalming fluid. Embalming fluid, of all things.
And I've heard of that, even though, and we mentioned earlier on the break, before we went to break, we were talking about young kids having farm parties. You mentioned that, where they're getting drugs and they're coming together and putting them in a bowl and then just going in as if they're picking up M&Ms and just taking one and laughing and having fun and taking that.
Right.
But yes, I've heard of marijuana being laced with embalming fluid. I've heard it being laced with Drano, rat poisoning. Something's in it, because I know several young men who smoked marijuana, and after several weeks and months of doing so, things happened to them. They were no longer the same.
It immediately hits certain receptors in the brain, and it causes, unfortunately, especially with some of the synthetic stuff, psychoactive reactions that really messes those brain receptors up. So, you know, that's why it's so very important to young people out there. I know it may be trendy. I know, you know, people may want to get you, oh, just try this. You do not know what is in that joint. So definitely stay away from that. One thing, and it's a consistent problem, underage drinking. Young people first should not be drinking, but this is where it's very important for our parents. I want parents to become more knowledgeable as well. Nowadays, these alcoholic drinks are marketed directly to young people. One of the most recent ones we saw being a trend, and still is, Four Loko. Four Loko, and if you look in the stores,
because I thought it was like another, I thought it was one of those high energy drinks.
High energy drinks.
Yes.
Four Loko will mess your child up. I want our parents to know out there. And the kids are coming out the stores, and it just looks like one of those new teas or something like that. Four Loko is a very potent alcoholic drink, and young people are coming into the stores. We're asking for responsible vendors out there as well, as they're selling their alcoholic products. But, you know, check that bottle, check whatever that can is that these young people are purchasing, because all these multicolored designs are to try to get kids drinking and get them addicted early.
So these, I can see now why it would be on the rise, because that was a concern for me. You know, a lot of things that happen to people, even to adults, it's all about perception.
Right.
If you think, oh, that's not going to happen to me, that happened to that kid down the street, but not, or it won't happen to my kid.
Right.
You know, but so it's all about perception. So I'm thinking, well, no wonder it's quite alluring to a kid.
Right.
To young people to engage in these things. What can we do? As a community, what more can we do, Saram?
Well, there are several things. What we always say at ASAP it's about prevention. We're not a treatment agency. We're all about the prevention, because if you can stop them before it starts, and you don't have to worry about addiction and many of these other unfortunate risk factors on down the road. But the number one thing, again, we have to become more knowledgeable. Prevention agencies like ours, we have a clearinghouse where we're always willing to get out information to the community. We go to churches, community organizations, you name it, we'll be there to be able to present some of these latest trends and really educate our young people on the harmful effect of these drugs.
And I don't mean to cut you off either, Saram, but I want to jump in, because I always say if I don't, I'll forget. You're right. We have to do more. I asked you, what can we do as a society? Are we failing our kids, our youth? And we have to be visible. I tell people all the time, it's not enough just for you to get on Facebook and send out a few shout outs, send out some pictures, send out some verbiage, and really think you're making a difference. If that's all you can do, that's all you can do. But clearly some people have the capacity to do so much more. You need to be visible. You need to be seen. You need to be heard, not just sitting back, posting something on a Facebook page and thinking that's it.
Right. And one other trendy drug that I really want to talk about that is really hitting the streets now locally in Calhoun and Etowah County is Vivazin. Vivazin or Viva Zen. That's the way in which it's both ways are pronounced. And this particular drug, it comes in a 5-hour energy shot like you were talking about. The same type of look, but it says Vivazin on it.
Right.
And it has the same effect as prescription painkillers. Also like your hydrocodons or something.
Yeah.
But young people, again, not FDA approved just yet. Young people have been getting access to it, and people who are in treatment centers and trying to come off of heroin, they're using it as a substitute and becoming addicted. And there are many agencies like ours that are looking at that now, understanding the dangers of it and really trying to warn people about this new drug.
Okay, when we come back, we've got to go break. When we come back, I want to talk about that particular drug because it was a young lady in front of me in the gas station the other day. She was going almost berserk because they were out of it. So we're going to talk about that when we come right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Glad you could join us here on Local Matters. We've been talking about some things that are taking place here in Calhoun County and Etowah counties and other surrounding counties, and we're talking about our children, young people being, there's a high level of uses for substance abuse, particularly drugs for young children. And we're trying to determine, City Councilman Saram Salassi's here, he's joining me here, but he's not wearing his city council hat today per se. He's wearing his executive director of the Agency for Substance Abuse Prevention Center because he works there as well, for those of you who do not know that. And so we've been talking about ways that we can help our young children. I mean, there is so many, we've learned already in the show, there's so many different types of allures for young people. Well, what can we do? What avenues, what sources, resources are out there? So Saram Salassi, your place is certainly a great start because as you mentioned, we want to go into this mitigation mode, if you will. You want to stop it before it even, make sure that they don't, they're not able to get their hands on these things. But it's so hard for us when they've got every drugstore in town that's offering a lot of these types of things.
Well, two things. Number one, parents always talk to your children. Parents have to talk to their children. Most people who end up addicted to substance abuse, I don't care whether it's Lamar Odom, I don't care whether it's John Doe down the street.
That's right.
They're not bad people at all.
No.
All it is individuals that have, dealt with some issues in life.
They
and
may be
many
dealing with some
people,
issues.
they don't have psychiatrists and psychologists, so they want to self-medicate.
Yeah, that's what they want to say. If you're going, I mean, we have all been guilty of being down, feeling as though something is overburdening us.
Right.
And at some point, you can say, I just wish I had a few drinks. I just wish I had something to make me feel good.
Right.
Imagine saying that if you're 17, 16. Okay.
And then you see, especially I've seen it even in my own family, you see generations of that self-medication and then young people are taught, oh, well, this is a way to handle my problems. I need to self-medicate. But issues like that, that's what agencies like ours are here for. We use evidence-based curriculums that over time have been approved by the federal government to be implemented in school systems to hopefully prevent the onset of those type of addictive behaviors.
I want to take a look at some of the things that your agency does. We have a full screen if I want to go ahead and bring that up because there's quite a few things that your agency does that's really geared and it targets young people.
Right.
And young people in our schools, and we have that full screen, so I want to go ahead and get that up because we sort of have a listing of some various types of programs that your agency does have. Do we not have that full screen? Okay, well that's some additional services that you have. You have the youth prevention, and that's the one I really want to take a look at. Let's look at that. I want to talk about just recently the National Red Ribbon Week.
Yes, Red Ribbon Week was celebrated October 23rd through the 31st. And pretty much what Red Ribbon Week is, if you ever see people out wearing the red ribbons, it's nothing but a drug prevention awareness campaign where it's a national program, and ASAP locally, we're actually giving out $750 to document local schools in the area that are participating in Red Ribbon Week.
Wow.
So you may have kids that will do dress up contests to, dress out drugs or something, poster contests, Red Ribbon Week rallies that students are having. Also, we've done essay contests in the past before because, we don't want to just be the person with the stick and saying bad, don't do drugs, but we want to reward those kids for doing proactive behaviors that don't allow them to live lives of substance abuse. So, those are just a few of the small things that our agency does. On our website, asaprev.com. Again, asaprev.com. You'll be able to see a list of the winning videos from our Red Ribbon Week contest.
Wow, maybe you can put those two on your website you mentioned?
Yes.
Are you going to put those? So is this the first year that you have offered those different types of incentives? Is this the first year?
We always offer some type of incentive, but this year we're being a little more innovative because with YouTube, I mean, Snapchat, Instagram, you name it, these young people are on it and they're displaying through social media what they really feel. And we as adults, we have to listen to them and then be able to take some of those same strategies and implement them for something good.
I was going to say that's a key word that I like that you use, that strategies, because see, young people are not aware, and sometimes we're not even aware. The media, that's us, me, the media, the power in media, the power in YouTube. So you see young women dancing and these people look cool. I'm just going to name Chris Brown as an example, not saying that he's targeting people for drugs, but that's how they allure your kids in through these types of programs.
Right.
So you have to, as you mentioned, you have to continuously be there to design programs that they will take a liking to, if you will. And I'm thinking maybe, what about something that may scare them a little bit? Because sometimes they don't, when they're in the 4th and 5th grade, you're right, we're saying don't do drugs. Don't do drugs. But then by the time they're in 8th, 9th grade, they're having more problems. Maybe the boyfriend quit them, girlfriend quit them. They think their life is over.
Right.
Again, that's not going to happen to me. That happened to Johnny. I'm just going to smoke this little joint. Nothing's going to happen to me.
Our whole objective, again, is to educate the young people, because what's really interesting, one of the #1 motivators or educators of young people are other young people. And if you start to get that small group, that small cohort that are doing the right thing or making it cool to be drug free, then you start to see each other, them rubbing off on each other and them being the leaders and productive citizens that we want them to be.
I like that. I like that, because you're right. It's even though I go out in the community all the time, people know, call me. If you can utilize me, I'm there. Okay, I'm gonna try to go. And it's one thing to hear from Dottie, well, she's old, well, whatever. But it's another to hear from somebody that's not too far removed from their own age.
Right. And again, if anybody wants information from us, we have an entire clearinghouse. I mean, we even have tricycles that we put on these drunk goggles on the young people to see what it's like to, drink and drive. So hopefully they won't do that. But if anybody needs information, they can reach us at area code 256-831-4436. Again, 256-831-4436. All
right, there you have it. Give him a call. He's not going to turn you down. Reach out, because help is needed. Your help is needed. And we hope to see you back here next week for more Local Matters, where it counts. You count. Local counts. See you back next week.
So good. So good.